Hi guys, this is part 17 of the Aizawa X Listener. Before I forget, I'd like to address a common question. Does Aizawa X Listener mean that it's going to turn into a romance with Aizawa? The answer, you've probably guessed, is no. In my mind, X Listener means that there's a relationship with the listener, but it doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. I labeled this story Aizawa X Listener because it focuses on the listener's platonic relationship with Aizawa as their dad. Okay, now that I've over-explained that, let's dive into part 17. You opened your eyes, jolting awake in a normal hospital room, and jerked back so you didn't fall out of the chair. The continuous beep of the heart monitor provided a gentle background noise. Your ears drooped. He still hadn't woken up. Aizawa lay covered in extensive bandages, looking exactly as pale as he had since yesterday. You'd been at his side ever since you'd gotten back from the USJ yesterday. At night, you shifted to cat form and curled up against his side. During the day, you shifted to human form and continued to wait. You watched Recovery Girl carefully. Recovery Girl jotted notes in a thick binder as she tended to Aizawa's injuries. She set the binder down and gave your hand an encouraging squeeze. "He'll be back on his feet in less time than he ought to be, dear. I've seen it from him enough times." You frowned. Aizawa had never come back from work injured. What was Recovery Girl talking about? She jotted a few more notes in her binder, then closed it into a drawer. You noted the location. As soon as she shut the door behind her, you retrieved the binder. As you'd suspected, it was a medical record of all her patients. The alphabetical organization put Aizawa near the front. Wait, this wasn't Dad's medical history. It was yours. Aizawa Eiko, read the header information. Only a single page. The records showed the time you'd gotten punched by the titanium fist dude, and the time you'd had a checkup for your claws, with some small x-ray photos. You turned the page again. Aizawa Shoda, the info read. You leaned forward intently. The first entry was from 17 years ago. Whoa. That would be when Dad was in high school. Several other entries followed, dating within the next few months. The fifth one had a note reading, "Seems to get injured unusually often. Note, talk to instructor. Suspect sensoji." You frowned. The way you'd pictured Dad in high school was nothing like what this note indicated. The training injuries continued down the next page. As soon as Aizawa's graduation year, the entries became less frequent, only once or twice a year. But far more severe. "Broken tailbone from being thrown into a building," read one. You winced. "Third-degree burn along entire right arm from fire-quirk," read another. You kept reading, scanning all the way towards the years since Aizawa had adopted you. The entries continued. "Broken kneecap, overstretched abilities to save a falling person. Broken rib, cause undisclosed. Poisoned by toxic dark-quirk, required immediate antivenom and resuscitation." You glanced at the date. That had happened on your 14th birthday. Your breath caught. You remembered that day. The party had been with Mike, Shinso's family, and a few other friends, and Aizawa had been late. When you'd asked him what had kept him, he'd looked at you silently, then shoved a forkful of cake in his mouth. You were distracted from your question as his face tinted green, and he wobbled in his chair. "Dad, are you okay?" He set down his fork and leaned forward tiredly. "I'm fine, problem child." Then, with a ghost of a smile, "Happy birthday." You snapped the binder closed, glaring down at Aizawa's bandaged form. "You didn't want me to worry, so you lied. You've always taught me to think rationally. And yet, you made the most irrational choice possible when you didn't let me know your limits. If I'd known." You bit your lip, angry at the tears welling up. "If you'd known, you could have fought with him. Evened the odds. This could have all been avoided." Aizawa remained peacefully oblivious, surrounded by the whirring machinery and gently blinking monitors. Footsteps in the hallway alerted you to Recovery Girl coming back, so you hastily replaced the binder and pretended to doze in your seat. You heard the door open and footsteps come over to you. You're obviously faking sleep. Your eyes flew open at the voice. It was your tired-looking, indigo-haired best friend. What gave me away? Shinso shrugged, but you persisted. Your ears, he finally admitted. They have a certain way of rotating and twitching when you sleep. They don't just, he gestured at you, lay back flat like that. Your face burned in annoyance. Shinso casually pulled up a chair to sit next to Aizawa with you. You braced yourself. For what, you weren't sure. For his attempts to comfort you, maybe? Or for him to ask you what had happened. But he didn't say anything. You relaxed. He was just there. When you finally felt in the mood, you told him about your anger. You told him about what had happened at the USJ. Hot tears spilling down your face as you told him how terrifying and frustrating it had been when you'd seen Aizawa losing. You told him about the medical records, and how Aizawa had hidden the truth of his vulnerability from you. Shinso didn't say anything. He just listened, unwavering. You felt completely drained when you finished updating him. Shinso finally spoke. You've been through a lot. When do you sleep? You shrugged. His eyes bored into you. Recovery Girl said you use human form for day and cat form at night. Nice trick. If I didn't know you better, I would never guess that you weren't sleeping. What do you mean? You scoffed. Every time it's night, you use your nocturnal form. By alternating between a nocturnal and diurnal form, you stay awake most of the full 24 hours, don't you? You glared. Your red-rimmed eyes didn't help your case. Might as well be honest. I want to be awake in case anything changes, in case he wakes up, or if he gets worse and I should get Recovery Girl. Shinso nodded. Makes sense. But you need to sleep, Eiko. I'll watch him for a while. You stared at him suspiciously. Will you wake me up the moment anything changes? Yes, Shinso promised. I'll hold you to that. You yawned toothily, then closed your eyes. Even sitting in a chair, sleep came fast. Shinso's point of view. Shinso felt relieved. He hadn't been sure that you'd agree to sleep, despite your obvious sleep deprivation. He'd briefly considered using his quirk on you, but in all your years of friendship, he never had. To brainwash you now would feel like a betrayal of that resolve. He turned his gaze to Aizawa. The bandaged hero lay comatose before him. What a complicated situation. You slumped sideways against his shoulder. Shinso resisted the urge to jerk away ticklishly when a twitch of your soft cat ear brushed against his neck. He could tell from your breathing that you were asleep. He put his arm around you, the motion causing you to slide deeper against his chest. You mumbled incoherently and snuggled into him. Shinso stared down at you. He felt highly conscious of your breathing and the points of contact from each finger of your hand resting loosely against his chest. Your expression looked so peaceful, your lips forming a gentle pout. Warmth tingled along his skin and burned in his heart. He found himself pulling you tighter into him and leaning down, feeling your gentle breath on his face as his lips drew closer to yours. The door suddenly banged open, making him jerk up to stare at whoever was bursting in. Present Mike stood in the doorway, outstretched arm on the door. He strode over to Aizawa's bedside, eyebrows tense with concern above his sunglasses. He looked up to meet Shinso's eyes. "Hey, Hitoshi," he greeted dejectedly. He pulled up a chair on the other side of Aizawa's bed and removed his sunglasses to stare with sad green eyes. "Well, this sucks." He sat in a tired slouch, so different from his normally energetic posture. His cockatoo crest of hair drooped. Shinso nodded mutely. His heart raced. What had he been thinking? No, he hadn't been thinking. He'd almost kissed Eiko, if not for Mike, he would have pressed his lips into hers, and she would have opened her eyes to stare at him in confusion, and everything would have been a mess. "Are you okay, dude?" Mike's voice broke through his panicked thoughts. Shinso realized that he was digging his free hand into his hair as he glared down in frustration. No wonder Mike sounded concerned. "Fine," he managed. "Just almost did something stupid." Mike stared at him blankly, taking in the way his arm cradled your sleeping figure against his chest. His green eyes regained a bit of their sparkle. "Now, what stupid thing could you have almost done with a cute girl in your arms?" He rested a finger on his chin, pretending to think hard. Shinso's face went hot. It was the first time he'd ever blushed, probably. "Don't make weird assumptions." "What's so weird about kissing your crush?" Mike asked innocently. "You're very annoying." "So I've been told," Mike responded happily. At least this seems to be cheering up Mike, Shinso thought sourly. The door to the infirmary opened again. "Wow, Aizawa has a lot of visitors at the moment." Shinso looked up, relieved at the distraction, only to face the ash-blonde walking explosion. Both of them saw each other at the same time and froze. Mike looked back and forth between them, trying to understand their dynamic. Shinso glowered darkly. Bakugou grimaced in surprise with wide, angry eyes. The expression would have been funny if he didn't look so murderous. Sparks flew between the two stares. "What the?" Mike muttered. "What are you doing here, punk?" Bakugou snarled. "I might ask you that," Shinso glared. "I'm here to see Aizawa-sensei, my teacher. Why is a general studies student here to see him?" Shinso bit back his retort. Instead he said, "I'm here to support Eiko." Bakugou's hands sparked. "Are you her boyfriend or something?" "What's it to you?" Shinso snapped, pulling you closer. Mike bent over in laughter. Shinso ignored him. "If she was, you wouldn't dodge the question." You shifted sleepily in Shinso's arms, curling your fingers loosely around the cloth of his shirt, and muttered, very softly but clearly, "Boyfriend." Bakugou scowled. Mike was laughing so hard that he could barely breathe as he pounded his knee. He suddenly dashed for the door with a gleeful yell of, "Never! He has to see this!" Bakugou stepped forward intimidatingly. "What's your quirk, anyway?" "That's not free information," Shinso responded calmly. Bakugou's eyes lit up. "Huh. I bet you don't even have a quirk." Shinso forced himself to stay silent, looking away. "Just like I thought," Bakugou scoffed even more confidently. "A quirkless loser. I remember you from the entrance exam. I'd never seen anyone so bad at fighting. You should be glad you didn't get in. If you had been at the USJ yesterday, you would have died." Shinso glowered. At that moment, you yawned toothily and sat up. You looked sleepily between Bakugou's sneer and Shinso's dark expression. "Have you two been introduced?" "No, actually," Shinso said icily. You yawned again. "Hitoshi, this is Katsuki Bakugou. He's in my class. Bakugou, this is my best friend, Hitoshi Shinso." Bakugou smirked at the introduction of friend rather than boyfriend. Feeling a small glow of irritation, Shinso ignored Bakugou and watched you carefully. Sure enough, you were using calming breathing techniques to stay in control. Bakugou really was making it hard for you with his explosive anger. You were just good at hiding it. Shinso found himself hating the ash blonde even more. "Your point of view." "Bakugou," you said, keeping your voice calm. "Thanks for getting him to Recovery Girl yesterday." "No problem." Bakugou stuck his hands in his pockets, looking down at the bandaged hero. You could feel Shinso watching you. You were extra careful not to show any anxiety, because the last thing you needed was for your best friend to kill your classmate. Mike burst into the room at that moment, closely followed by Midnight. Midnight took in the scene instantly and squealed in delight. You glared at them. They were Aizawa's friends. What were they so happy about when he was laying in front of them, practically in a coma, with every bone broken? Shinso spoke resignedly, as though reading your mind. They've been having a hard time too, Eiko. But they're looking to distract themselves, I guess. You opened your mouth to ask questions about the obscure statement, but suddenly, all the machinery around Aizawa went berserk, lights blinking and beeps intensifying. Everyone bent over him. Aizawa suddenly struggled up, with surprising agility for someone with casts on both arms. "Whoa! Hang on there!" Mike grabbed his shoulders and gently pushed him back against the pillows. "My students, where are—" "Safe, all of them." Aizawa relaxed. Then he realized that you, Shinso, Bakugou, Mike, and Midnight were all invading his personal space as you leaned over him. He groaned and closed his eyes again. "I should have stayed asleep." He cracked open an eye, focusing on you. "I'll be on my feet in a day or so. Don't worry, Eiko." "Dad, you're such a liar. You said you could take them all." "Rational deception." "Not rational in my book," you snapped. Everyone looked between you and Aizawa in disbelief at the fact that you were arguing moments after he'd woken up. 100% rational, Aizawa countered. "Prove it," you retorted. "How is that logical?" "The proof is that I won." "You lost, you fool." "I won." "Look at yourself. You're in a full body cast." "But I won, all the same." Aizawa turned towards you slightly, eyes blazing crimson. "This was the outcome I intended. The villains failed. My students are safe." "Dad," you swiped tears from your cheek angrily. "I could have helped you." He studied you, not seeming to hear what you'd said. "I will not lose you, Eiko," he muttered, as if to himself. "Not again." His eyes slowly closed. Recovery Girl hurried forward, checking his vitals. "He is no longer in critical condition," she confirmed. "His healing will speed up from here, but he shouldn't be up for at least another couple weeks." You stared down at the way his head lolled, dark hair contrasting sharply as it draped against his white bandages. Only one thought remained in your mind. From now on, you are not going to let Aizawa protect you. Bakugou's point of view. Bakugou grabbed the collar of a random kid who walked out of Class 1C. "You're a general studies student, right?" The student gulped, nodding. "What can you tell me about your classmate Hitoshi Shinso?" "I don't know him that well, really." Bakugou's eyes sparked in annoyance. He was about to release the extra when the boy blurted, "But Akira will know. He seems to know everything about everyone." Bakugou was instantly back in his face. "Who's Akira?" The boy pointed nervously back through the doorway. Bakugou peered inside to see a boy looking out the window. He released the extra, who backed away hurriedly. Wimp. Akira didn't notice him entering the classroom, too busy chuckling to himself. Bakugou glanced down to the school grounds outside. He couldn't see anything remarkable, just a student repacking their bag down below. "What's so funny, you weirdo?" Akira shifted back slightly, startled, but quickly calmed. "See the paper in his hand?" Bakugou squinted. "That's his real report card. He just finished switching it with the fake one that's in his backpack now. Must have wanted to impress his parents enough to lie." Bakugou scowled. "So this is how you know about people? Well, what do you know about Hitoshi Shinso?" Akira looked up for the first time with wide, dark eyes. "Shinso? I've been watching him all week. He's hard to figure out. Keeps to himself. All I know are the rumors." Bakugou's eyes narrowed. "What rumors?" Akira listed them off his fingers. That he was really close to getting into the hero course, that he's insanely jealous of the hero course students, that his dad disappeared years ago, and that he was a huge troublemaker in middle school. "Troublemaker?" Akira shrugged. "I don't know the details, but I heard some students from his middle school say that they thought Shinso would end up a villain, so he must have gone pretty far." Bakugou turned to go. "Later, extra." "Wait!" Akira called. "You're Katsuki Bakugou, right? I have questions for you too." Bakugou slammed the door, cutting Akira off. He strode down the empty hallway. The final bell rang over 20 minutes ago. Most students had already gone home. Bakugou had been thinking, ever since the USJ attack. Someone had known that they would be at the USJ that day. Someone with ties to UA staff and a motive for resenting the hero course. It matched the indigo-haired punk to a T. Akira said that people had predicted Shinso would become a villain. But what if they were wrong? What if Shinso already was a villain? Even a quirkless loser could be dangerous with the right information. Shinso seemed like the patient type, in no rush to show his true colors. And somehow, he had gained Kadir's trust. Bakugou would have to expose him before he caused any more damage.